Most of us have played Monopoly, buying and selling properties with fictional money. Monopoly games are intensely competitive. Apparently, half of them end in an argument. We get immersed, wheeling and dealing and winning second place in beauty contests. But when the game is back in the box, the wealth you finished with is immaterial. The game's winners are financially no better off than its losers. The cash in your hand becomes meaningless. And it's a similar take on life to Ecclesiastes. We've heard the teacher state that everything is, as he puts it here in verse 14, meaningless. Like breath briefly hanging in the cold air, everything is transitory and illusory. This means that striving to grasp something lasting is like chasing after the wind, a task as ultimately meaningful as accumulating Monopoly money.
It's hard to hear. Are our ambitions really no more significant than pursuing handfuls of fictional banknotes? Yes, insists the teacher. He points to two areas in which we can mistakenly believe we can find lasting value. The first is learning. We know, in theory at least, that education is a wonderful gift. Learning changes lives. Many of us are at uni to better ourselves. We want to play our part in making the world a better place. The teacher agrees that wisdom is better than folly, just as light is better than darkness. The wise have eyes in their heads while the fool walks in the darkness. So the teacher doesn't reject the good that using our brains brings to our health and relationships. But he insists that by itself, learning can't bring anything of lasting value. Listen to his proverb. With much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. He's saying that a point comes, whatever your area of study, when your learning reveals how powerless we are to address the world's really big problems. We discover a warp that no human solution can overcome. However many placements you go on, however many podcasts you listen to, however many books you read, certain obstinate realities will remain.
And that's depressing in itself. But to this, the teacher adds a second limit to learning. The wise, like the fool, will not be long remembered. The days have already come when they both have been forgotten. Like the fool, the wise too must die. It's sobering. You may give your life to learning or self-improvement, and you may appear on podcasts and write books, but you too will die. The dropouts and the driven, the losers and the lauded, they both come to the same end. So make learning your ambition, says the teacher, and no insight you gain will change the world. Not really. Death makes a mockery of them anyway. You're left chasing the wind, pursuing something as valueless as Monopoly money.
Well, some might say, I never really came to uni to learn anyway. I came for everything else. What about living for pleasure? The teacher describes his experience here too. In some ways, he's a stereotypical student. He embraces laughter. Perhaps you can imagine him combing YouTube for videos or playing FIFA late into the night. He enjoys drinking. He says his mind was still guiding him, though. It seems he was more connoisseur than binge drinker, more real ale society than cheap pre-drinks. Then, to these, the teacher adds music, food, and sex. He spends big money setting up the ultimate bachelor pad, but in the end, it leaves him with nothing. The teacher concedes in verse 10 that there's delight in the moment, but nothing lasts. The best gigs, the best meals, the best nights out come to an end. Eventually, even our memories of them fade. We're left longing for more, and then we die.
The teacher is honest about where his experiences took him. I hated life. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What's the point of learning? What's the point of pleasure? What's the point of uni? And what's the point of a lifelong game of Monopoly? These questions rightly trouble us. But just as we start feeling hopeless, the teacher allows in a gleam of sunshine. He states, a person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. This too, I see, is from the hand of God, for without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? It's tempting to think the teacher is saying that if there's nothing at the end, we can and should grab any pleasure we can along the way. But his point is more nuanced than that. He's saying, make learning or pleasure your ultimate goal, and you chase the wind. They leave you with nothing. But see them as gifts from the hand of God, and you can know true enjoyment. In other words, if we ask learning or pleasure to take us somewhere, to give us something lasting, they'll fail us. But view them as signs of God's kindness, as gifts, and real joy is on offer. Why? Well, life is meant to be enjoyed, not mastered. We best experience learning and pleasure when they move us to thankfulness.
1,000 years after Ecclesiastes, the early Christian, Paul, emphasized that God had not left himself without testimony. He has shown kindness, says Paul, by giving you rain from heaven and crops in their seasons. He provides you with plenty of food and fills your hearts with joy. Paul says that the tastiest food, our highest moments of pleasure, our most satisfying times of breakthrough in the library are testimonies, signposts to the kindness of the living God. They are little shards of his kindness. Stripped of needing to provide lasting value, the things that fail to satisfy us help us find joy in a generous God. The one who so loves giving that he didn't withhold even his son. So study, yes, enjoy student life as best you can, but more than that, be moved to thankfulness and allow your thanks to direct you to the one in whom lasting joy can be found, in a relationship that not even death can rob.